Good afternoon, good evening, good morning. So this solemn moment has arrived when today we've invited you all to the final seminar of this season. Today we're making a research into Sloka 5 of Stanza 2 of The Secret Doctrine by Madame Blavatsky. We congratulate you all and wish fruitful work for all our speakers and members of the research group. So, the introductory word of our final seminar will be said by Mr. Vladimir Yary, the president of Adamant Lodge and head of Moscow School of Theosophy. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everybody. And let us start from the thought of the day, from the gems from the East. As Madame Blavatsky was Bodhisattva, she is giving us the system of Bodhisattva via the thought of the day. The thought of the day for today is the following. The happy man must prepare ere the evil day comes. And when it does, let the thought that every good and great man has been made to suffer at some time console him. That is the thought of the day. And it says the way we'll live through this day and the way we should live through it. We can say that it will also pass. In the same way, we can move forward without being stuck, without feeling of guilt or regretting, by accepting everything that is coming to us without suffering, by understanding that even the greatest ones were suffering, and we all should go through these obstacles by which we grow. Today we live through the era of the blue monkey, and it means beautiful and harmonious thought that is born only when a person has a state of peace in soul. The age of white dragon means the finished wisdom, the revealed wisdom, I would say, and this revealed wisdom is what we should take note of. And of course, we should use all our capacities and capabilities in order to be wise and manifest qualities of our thoughts. The year of the black tiger, you all know that the black element is water, and water as the root or seed of everything lets us grow the thought. There is force in this water, and the force is called Shakti, the initial force, power giving birth to life in different elements and consciousnesses of everything alive. Of course, that is the year where the spiritual person is born. The month of the blue dragon means the wise thought that we should have established inside our souls, our minds. The week is the yellow tiger. The yellow tiger, with its element earth, or the quality of establishing the new thought, the new life, the new being. Actually, that is the power of understanding. it's been awoken to life as a potentiality of mind as consciousness is born. And the day of the yellow snake is very important due to the fact that it is the third Nidana, without which there would be no point for the mind of consciousness to arise. There is potentiality that allows the consciousness launch the law. Therefore, the consciousness is manifested. There is such a potentiality that is a power with consciousness that can be clarified and manifested to this life by conscious actions. The fifth sloka of the second stanza Dhyan that we'll consider today says the following: the seven sons were not yet born from the web of light. Darkness alone was Father Mother Svabhâvat, and Svabhâvat was in darkness. Thank you. Thank you so much for the description of Nidanas we are living through right now, today, in our final seminar. For 1 year, dear friends, dear participants, speakers, members of the research group, we managed to live through stanza 1 and almost came to the end of the second stanza, despite the fact that there is subtle difference between stanzas 1 and 2. We managed, though, to find in every sloka equal moments, some revelations, and managed to go deeper in the material and notions. Every speaker who is presenting the material, of course, it's first and foremost the research basis. The scientific concept presented in the international theosophical seminars of seasons when we started 3 years ago is so valuable because every revelation and research is in video, is kept in recording and watched by hundreds of people who are studying the secret doctrine, who have some interest in the secret doctrine by HPB. And we can be sure that that is the way in our age we can diffuse these notions and knowledge of the fundamental work by H.P. Blavatsky. So we congratulate you, and today there is the final seminar of our season, and we invite the first speaker with the research, our partner from France, Madame Brigitte Taquin, the Theosophical Society of France, Paris. Madame Taquin, we are listening to you, and we are so grateful that you've joined us.
Hello, everybody. So I compiled several excerpts related to the main terms of this fifth Sloka of stanza 2. It is spoken of the seven sons. We are in the pre-cosmic stage of the cosmogenesis. The seven sons of Manvantari down, the sons of light, the builders of a solar system, have not yet been differentiated. They have not awakened yet. They are not yet born from the web of light. In the Secret Doctrine Dialogues, page 266, HPB says that the web means the ever-existent primordial matter, pure spirit to us, the matter out of which the objective universe or universes are evolved. That is to say, the web is a subjective material. It is limitless, infinite, eternal, and indestructible. In The Secret Doctrine, first volume, page 514, we see the occultists are taken to task for calling the cause of light, heat, cohesion, magnetism, etc., etc., a substance. Still on page 550, we can read that occultism maintains that we must seek for the ultimate causes of light, heat, etc., in matter, existing in supersensuous states. States, however, as fully objective to the spiritual eye of man as a horse or tree is to the ordinary mortal. Light and heat are the ghost or shadow of matter in motion. Such states can be perceived by the seer or adept during the hours of trance. End of quotation. Then comes the term father, mother, which is said to be in darkness. In the Theosophical glossary at the entry Svabhâvat, we read, Svabhâvat is the word, substance and stuff, or rather that which is behind it, the spirit and essence of substance. From it, all nature proceeds, and into it all returns at the end of the life cycles. In esotericism, it is called father, mother. It is the plastic essence of matter. End of quotation. Svabhâvat is called in the text the concrete Buddhistic aspect of the abstraction called in Hindu philosophy Mula Prakriti. In the poem of A Secret Doctrine, page 18 of the first volume, the one principle under its two aspects of Para-Brahman and Mula Prakriti is said to be sexless, unconditioned, and eternal. Its periodical emanation or primal radiation is also one, androgynous and phenomenally finite. When the radiation radiates in its turn, all its radiation are also androgynous to become male and female principles in their lower aspect. After pralaya, whether the great or the minor pralaya, the latter leaving the world in statu quo, the first that reawakes to active life is the plastic akasha, father, mother, the spirit and soul of ether, or the plane on the surface of a circle. Space is called the mother before its cosmic activity, and father, mother at the stage of reawakening. In the Kabbalah, it is also called father, mother, and son. End of quotation. In The Secret Doctrine, page 40, 41 of the first volume, we read, darkness is father, mother, light their son, says an old ancient proverb. Light is unconceivable except as coming from some source, which is the cause of it. Nothing is added to darkness to make of it light. or to light to make it darkness on this our plane. They are interchangeable, and scientifically, light is but a mode of darkness, and vice versa. Yet, both are phenomena of the same noumenon. How far we discern the light that shines in the darkness depends on our powers of vision. So we see it is not very easy, according to these passages, to distinguish between light and darkness, between darkness and Svabhâvat, between father and mother, and mother, father, and son or sons, for at this stage of reawakening, things are not yet enough differentiated to evoke precise representation for us. Still, our powers of vision are said to be determinant. Master Kutumi wrote in a letter to A.P. Sinet, so letter 65, to understand my answers, you will have, first of all, to view the eternal essence, the Svabhâvat, not as a compound element, but as a one element for which the English has no name. I hope these cogitations of mine on the Sloka did not plunge you into deep interrogations. To console ourselves, we can turn to what HPB says about the second stanza, page 21 of the first volume of The Secret Doctrine. She says, the stage described in stanza 2 is to a Western mind so nearly identical with that mentioned in the first stanza that to express the idea of its difference would require a treatise in itself. Hence, it must be left to the intuition and the higher faculties of the reader to grasp as far as he can the meaning of the allegorical phrases used. Indeed, it must be remembered that all these stanzas appeal to the inner faculties rather than to the ordinary comprehension of a physical brain. In the footnote, page 1 of The Secret Doctrine, it is said, only those who realize how far intuition soars above the tardy processes of ratiocinative thought can form the faintest conception of that absolute wisdom which transcends the idea of time and space. So let us try together to develop our intuition and let's exchange our views on this fundamental topic. Thank you for your attention.
Дорогая Бриджит, огромное
Dear
спасибо.
Brigitte, thank you very much for your lecture. Thank you very much. It was very interesting and insightful. Indeed, as HPB note, the secret doctrine cannot be perceived, understood by the intellect. It is being understood through intuition. Of course, it is a very long way to reveal, to awake our intuition. And one of the methods to wake it is the group study of the secret doctrine. And it contributes to the thinning of our minds. There was a great comparison and reminder that the first stanza differs from the second one. in a very fine, minute way or details. In order to find these differences, we need to have a certain perseveration and the fine and very thin perception and attention. And this is what we are doing when we are gathering together at our seminars. Dear Brigitte, we have a question for you from our listeners online. How do you think the state of Svabhâvat does it have a relation to karma?
The question is there a relationship between Svabhâvat and karma? Is it the question?
Yes.
I tried to see a relationship. There is a relation between karma and Svabhâvat. Certainly a relationship between karma and father mother, between karma and the differentiation that happens in these early stages of cosmogenesis, and karma is acting everywhere. It's really the law of adjustment of causes to effects. So the matter we have in this solar system is the result of a matter that was elaborated in the preceding chain of globes, the lunar chain that was that preceded our terrestrial chain. So Madame Blavatsky says somewhere in her writings that the people that peopled the moon were more ethereal. They were less concrete than we are. And there is very probably a relationship between Svabhâvat, the essence, the spirit of matter, and the matter we encounter in our present solar system. This is my answer, a suggestion, anyway.
Огромное спасибо.
Thank you very much, dear Brigitte. Indeed, it's a very interesting topic, karma, as notions provided to us by Elena Petrovna Blavatsky in the first three stanzas of the Secret Doctrine are related. But yet, before we define the system of every notion on which level they are, we will not be able to establish the connection. That's why Elena Blavatsky provided us with the planes of being. And we understand that karma starts its movement from prototypes plane, and the higher planes are not manifested. Where is Svabhâvat? Svabhâvat is the plane of the spirit beyond forms. And the way it is related to karma, we may say that the matter of space, of the matter of prototypes, it means that all the images for the future manifestation were gathered there. Yet karma starts its movement only when everything was realized, everything was made at this plane. Yes, Svabhâvat, the spirit where this state of second stanza is described. Svabhâvat, it is the stage of merging of the spirit and matter. It is the end of pralaya. We understand that the first and second stanza and the third stanza till the third sloka, it brings us to the movement of the whole space of the construction of the universe in pralaya stage, the final part of the pralaya stage, and as soon as it finishes, Manvantara will stop, and then the human evolution will start. Of course, all this related cosmic and human and natural evolution, and then the karma will start its action. Dear Brigitte, thank you very much again. Your lecture was wonderful. And we would like to thank you that all season creative, scientific research season for Elena Perovna Blavatsky, Secret Doctrine. You were with us, you participated, you were so active, and we are so grateful to you that you're still with us, that you are interested and aware and so wise in your studying, in your research about this fundamental knowledge, and for your sharing your knowledge with us. Thank you again
Thank you.
from
It's a
our
pleasure.
hearts. Dear friends, and we are going to continue our scientific research seminar, the final part of our scientific research season. And today we are going to welcome Mr. Kolganov, Russia, Moscow, Sergey Vitalyevich Kolganov, PhD in philosophy, the professor of philosophy in Moscow State Aviation University. Thank you very much for being here with us, and we are looking forward to hearing your lecture. The floor is yours. Uh, Hello, dear friends, dear participants. My lecture is called The Nature of Svabhâvat. Although the world has undergone significant changes since the time of the ancient philosophers, people are still trying to find answers to the same main questions as hundreds of years ago. Do people have the faculty to make their own choices and determine their fate? Do we have the free will? Or will everything in our future be determined solely by forces beyond our control, such as physical constants, brain biochemistry, or spiritual law? The question of freedom of choice, freedom of will, has always been the subject of discussions and publications for philosophers, religious figures, and scientists since time immemorial. They considered this issue from the sociological, psychological, metaphysical, and other points of view. In an attempt to resolve these issues, let us turn to the fifth sloka of the second stanza of the book of Dhyan, which are considering, but not to the seven that have not yet been born. But we need to clarify the nature of Svabhâvat. And we will provide you with the arguments about the substance characteristic of the religious and philosophical thought of the ancient East and West. On this occasion, in the Theosophical archives of Elena Petrovna Blavatsky, we find the following lines. It is known that Buddhism does not recognize either monotheism or polytheism, and yet an atom of dust is as filled with Svabhâvat, plastic substance, eternal and intelligent uh, as itself, and it tries to understand Svabhâvat as its own, to reach nirvana, should go through the way of self-restriction, altruism, and good deeds. There, we also can read that some of the highest and more penetrating metaphysical schools of Nepal even go so far as to assert, also on quite reasonable grounds, that this pre-existent substance or matter, Svabhâvat, exists by itself without any creator or ruler. When it is in state of activity, it is the universal creative principle, pravriti. When it is in the hidden or passive state, they call this force nivriti. As something eternal and boundless, it has no beginning, no end, no past, and no future, but it has always been, is, and will be. And everything that has been and will be there, which means that there has never been a single action or a single thought, even the slightest, that would not be forever imprinted in the substance called Sabhavat by Buddhists and astral light by Kabbalists. Like a faithful mirror, the light reflects every image, and the human imagination is not able to imagine something that does not exist anywhere but in the substance. To believe that the human brain can invent something not conceived before by the universal mind is an arrogant mistake. How can we accept that something can completely define us, know that we cannot change it, and even though we want to change it, and we will have to live with it? Our brain is still one step ahead of reality because it has valuable preliminary information at its disposal. This allows us to draw conclusions and predict the future. For example, if you are listening to a certain song or piece of music and something interrupts it, you can predict what will happen next. Our mind already has a specific pattern of a sequence of notes, and it more or less imagines how a piece of music will continue. It is the same for the other processes. Um, the Russian translation or the real Bible of Hinduism, the famous Bhagavad Gita, which was published in Russian in 1788 in the uh, edition house of the Russian educator and mystic Mr. Novikov, we find similar ideas about the uh, reproduction. The book tells about the beginning of a fratricidal battle between two Indian clans, the sons of King Dhritarashtra and his five nephews. The main character of the poem and one of the nephews, Arjun, uh, receives exhaustive instructions about the duty and determination of events in our world by the earthly incarnation of one of the three main gods of the Indian pantheon, Krishna. Krishna, as we know, is the eighth reincarnation of Vishnu on earth. And Krishna, in response to Arjuna's words about the inadmissibility of war, exclaimed, "Who thinks that he can be killed or that he kills is mistaken." Explanation of the philosophy of the Gita can be found in the translator and author of comments on the Russian translation of Bhagavad Gita, academician Boris Smirnov. He writes, Prakriti, nature, is considered by Bhagavad Gita not as Maya or the world illusion, absolute unreality, as understood by Maya and Shankara, but as divine power, Shakti, manifested in guna. Every person acts according to their nature. It is inevitable and it is useless to protest against it. A person blinded by ignorance thinks, I am the doer. By the one who knows the essence of things, say, the gunas revolve into gunas, and they do not get attached to the deeds and results. This is something that somebody who knows the essence of things says. The yogi performs actions only with his bodily side, including buddhi, since, according to the concept of Sankhya, mental processes are also material. For Indian philosophy, something that has happened in our world is a link in the causal series of rotation of the gunas, and is subject to consideration only from this point of view, only going through the individuum, basically illusionary one. Yet they do not start to end in this individuum. In Bhagavad Gita, in accordance with the basic philosophical tradition of the early Sankhya and the early Upanishads, in the chapter 13, it is explained the dualistic doctrine on the opposition of spirit and matter. The fullness of activity is attributed only to matter. Spirit is recognized as an inactive contemplator of what is happening in matter. Yet the nature rotates by itself. To express the idea of the universal soul, the Bhagavad Gita uses the image of the all pervading perceiving Akasha. After completing the teaching of Krishna, it is time for Arjuna to act. And here Krishna gives him complete freedom. At the same time, anticipating his actions. Krishna says, if having surrendered to self will, you think, I will not fight, your decision is in vain, because you will be involved by your own nature into the battle, by your own karma, born of your own nature. You will do against your will that you mistakenly do not want to do. The Lord resides in the heart of every being, Arjuna, rotating all beings by the power of his Maya, as on a potter's wheel. Similarly, Krishna, as if consoling Arjuna, declares in advance, and despite the mighty deeds that will appear, he says, do not grieve, you were born for a divine destiny. Thus, Arjuna, who is bound to kill not only people but his relatives, was born for the divine destiny. Let us recall that similar ideas about predestination were also characteristic of the Western philosophy of the 20th century, in particular the philosophy of Benedict Spinoza. Spinoza's life and work are the highest example of selfless service to the truth. In ethics, in his main work, Spinoza explores the question, what is everything? And this is truly a metaphysical question. Indeed, by our organs of perception, we cannot sense everything. Everything can only be captured by our mind. From the standpoint of empirism, such a question cannot even be formulated. Thus, the main idea of Spinoza is that there is only one single substance, God or nature. God and nature are the same substration. God, in this case, becomes a synonym to the active, creative principle of nature, and the nature becomes equal to God because it is eternal, infinite, and uncreated. Substance is self sufficient, it is the cause of itself. And thinking and extension, that is, matter, are attributes or fundamental properties. This way, Spinoza eliminates the idea of a special spiritual substance, the immaterial soul. The substance acts always and in all ways at once. The mode of action of Spinoza's substance is called an attribute. All the separate actions of Spinoza's substance are called its modes, or separate things. Out of all infinite set of attributes, the human being only perceives two, the attribute of thinking and the attribute of extension. What is the peculiarity of human beings' position among the modes of substance? Like every mode, man, from Spinoza's point of view, is subject to um, necessity. Actions that people consider arbitrary, in reality they are only blind, are carried out spontaneously without knowing uh, the reasons. This is very important. Indeed, the states of the human body that increase or decrease the ability of the body itself to act, as well as the ideas of these states, Spinoza, are called affects, passions, or emotions. Thus, the person falls into the slavery to effects. This happens because in the soul or heart of effects are vague, inadequate ideas. Consequently, the way to get rid of this slavery is the cognitive activity of a person or their mind. Favorable affect-free states of the soul increase our ability to think. So only God is free, and determinism reigns in the nature. Man is a part of this substance, part of the nature. Hence, Spinoza's definition of freedom as a conscious necessity becomes clear. The size of the real freedom is determined by the degree of reasonable knowledge of external necessity. The will is the mind. Feeling free, a person is deeply mistaken. He They are just a spiritual automation. Here Spinoza reproduces the moral maxim of the ancient Stoics. My ideal is not to cry or love, but to understand. It is worth recalling that Stoicism is one of the significant philosophical trends behind the creation of which there were many extraordinary personalities. Among the ideologists of Stoicism were the philosopher Seneca, Nero's mentor, the freedman Epictetus, and even the Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius. The Stoics adhered to rigid determinism in their views on the universe, leading to fatalism. The Stoics argued that if you are not able to control what is happening, then it is only your power to change your attitude to it, the ideal state of a person, which can be achieved only by sages, wise men, who in turn considered a state of ataraxia or apathy, devoid not only of fear but also of hope. Such serenity of spirit is found on the path of philosophical reflection. We find a similar concept in Spinoza's writings. Though through knowledge a person becomes free, according to Spinoza, freedom is not the ability to do what you want. If a person is in the power of an adequate idea and a higher passion, the passion for knowledge, which Spinoza called intellectual love for God. Then, by this, the person is free, because nothing hinders him, because he acts in the direction of natural or objective necessity. Does HPB agree with Spinoza's conclusions about man's spiritual automation? She explains Spinoza's philosophical attitude in this way. Uh, Let me quote. According to his philosophy, we know only two of the innumerable attributes of God: extension and thought, objective and subjective, for which he, or the infinite, is the identity. God is the only free cause or causa libera, but all other beings, having neither free will nor choice, move due to the rigid laws of causality. The deity is causa immanentum hominem, the cause that abides in everything, not existing separately from the universe, but manifested and expressed in it, as in a kind of living garment. How can we not recall here the idea of the well-known authority of Western Christianity, Augustine the Blessed, about the complete subordination of the fate of each person to divine predestination? Without predestination, finally, according to Augustine, a person cannot strive for good and thereby find salvation. And this theory has been criticized and misunderstood many times. Yet modern psychology has been able to show that the belief in freedom of choice, has a positive effect on our mental health. Although we are aware that there are many factors that can influence us. However, to prove the total determinism of all events means simply to lead us into great confusion and disappointment. But the authority of the geniuses of the past and the logic of reasoning are stubborn things. As Stoic Epictetus said, there is only one way to happiness: to stop worrying about things that are not subject to our will. Thank you very much for your attention, dear friends.
Витальевич, огромное спасибо. Очень информативное
Thank you
поле вы
so much,
дали.
Mr. Kolganov, and there is such an informational space you've created for us
Составляющего этого
so that we feel all the greatness of this Svabhâvat notion.
для вас.
There are questions in the chat for you, and let's try to answer. Probably somebody add something. The question is the following. Does Svabhâvat have qualities of memory and time? As for nature of the Svabhâvat, it is a mysterious nature. Here, it's impossible to attribute it to anything, more like nature as a substance, close to something, close to natural emptiness. First of all, I'd like to draw your attention to the fact in my speech that everything happening is determined by the nature of Svabhâvat, and therefore it determines all actions of elements that it gives birth to. So there is no freedom of will the person has. The person is even not a part, an idea. As for memory and time, we can only guess, I'd say like that. Mr. Kolganov, more than once, you said the word substance in your speech, and I have a question to you. Do you think the notion of Svabhâvat is a substance of something or not? Yes. Here, I attribute this category to the substance because it's self-sufficient. Substance is something existing by its own means and doesn't need anything for its existence. It doesn't need anything for its existence. But what is happening thanks to activity of Svabhâvat? How you can mean that there is a higher spiritual being there defining manifestation in the world. And if we take possibility of existence and other being, then we cannot say there is self-sufficiency here. If the substance by its own is a basis without any changes, there is something permanent. We think it's something that is a foundation, initial one. We should also understand that the substance can be material or spiritual. And if we take Svabhâvat, do you think the substance is material or spiritual? And I'd like to make a comment afterwards. It's quite a complicated question you pose. Of course, we can say that this being is material one, and matter is dual here. It's manifested and unmanifested firstly, and secondly, it can be differentiated or undifferentiated. But if we look up in Oriental dictionaries, in Oriental philosophy, then Svabhâvat is not a matter unmanifested one, but more like a spirit of this possible manifested matter. And it makes a question even more complicated. For me, I haven't clarified this question enough, but I've clarified the issue of Buddhist emptiness, what it is. As for the nature of Svabhâvat, it's quite complicated here, I'd say it. Thank you so much, Mr. Kolganov, for your answers. We speak of the state of substance and its functions, no matter how it is, material or spiritual one. it is the bearer of some features. It makes it possible to connect nothing to something. That is the category of substance, isn't it? And would like to use the theosophical point of view here, because philosophy is an abstract space of thinking that a person, according to a category of consciousness, is transforming the matter of consciousness into understanding. The theosophical worldview, and HPB speaks of this worldview. All the point of your work of the Secret Doctrine is to say what a theosophical worldview means. And here we have the system. If we know where Svabhâvat as substance is, and we've defined that it's a spiritual substance, it allows us to connect nothing to something. Here is the main function of Svabhâvat. When the spirit starts to connect to some point, the matter, there is the beginning, always, the culmination is there always, and the finish is there always, but the finish gives an impetus for the next round, for revelation of this causality of Svabhâvat in infinite evolution of human consciousness. If here we say it's infinite as the evolution of the universe, of planets, our Earth, if we say that there is a connection between it all, then we define Svabhâvat as the main bearer or the connector, connecting state of the space. It's not manifested in our period, but the cycle will come when it will be manifested, when it gives impetus of manifestation. The state of Svabhâvat has in its hidden potentiality this power of impetus. And there is one more question to you, Mr. Kolganov. If you say that the God has distributed the roles, then does it mean that the person is free only within the limits of his or her own role? Is that true? In my report, I'm on the edge position of fatalism, because the world around us is actually the world of causal connections. And as Buddhists say, interdependent existence. And every free event, then you see that the freedom is the private, is some of events of necessity. In esoteric works, we read that knowing everything we have initially, we can calculate all actions of the subject absolutely, and the way the accountant would calculate them. So there is no freedom anywhere. Thank you so much. And the Indian tradition of Sankhya confirms it. In the tradition of Indian philosophy, Upanishads, Bhagavad Gita, Sankhya, and yoga philosophies, the subject is contemplating, not acting. Gunas of nature act, and this subject has no connection to this goodness of nature, just contemplating. They even don't touch upon each other. And we can change something in our screen of the TV. Can we? No, we cannot. That is the position of many schools of Indian philosophy. And I don't say that it's true, but logically, I've described it. Thank you. I'd like to say that the logic is a thing that has its limits. And that is actually our samsara vision, illusionary understanding of Sankhya school was bringing before. In all Buddhist schools, they say first and foremost that there is a will, and will is not mind. Will is the greatest power of life that contributes to contemplation of the mind. That is the will. That is why it's the highest, and that is the freedom of choice in a human being. According to the cosmic laws, we should respect it, and that is why violence should be out of here. The will is the foundation of breathing of life. Thank you. Here is a debate we have today about these notions, for example, Svabhâvat, and if our will makes it possible to think, let us do it within stanza 2, Sloka 5, and we're listening to a PhD in mathematics, statistics division, the Theosophical Society of England, the UK, London, Dr. Ganguly Taposhri. Dear Taposhri, we're listening to you. Thank you so much for having joined, and we're happy to see you.
Super happy to see everybody. Thank you for this opportunity and for allowing me to share this space with all of you today. What an honor it has been listening to every single participant today. Most of the things that I'm going to say is already covered, but I will repeat any which way. The more you repeat, it's never enough. So most of the things that I will say will be like a repeat, but I will start. Like I said, it's always an honor and a great pleasure to come back to talk and share my thoughts around Helena Petrovna Blavatsky's writings. Although the same sentence can be understood in many different ways at different stages of one's life, today I'll be talking through a yogic interpretation of her writings of stanza 2, Shloka 5, which is, the 7 sons were not yet born from the web of light. Darkness alone was father, mother, Svabhâvat, and Svabhâvat was in darkness. So I'm going to focus on one word of this stanza, which has, been very, very popular as we were listening to everybody, which is Svabhâvat. The reason being that this word draws upon a deeper underlying philosophy that is latent in all of us. And I would like to touch upon that today and hopefully work my way through that. It is said that the term Svabhâvat that is used by Helena Petrovna Blavatsky in her writings in the Sanskrit ablative case of the undeclined term Svabhâva, which should have been the preferred spelling. Further, Svabhâva, defined by Blavatsky as the eternal and the uncreated self-existing substance which produces all. The name comes from Subhuva and is composed of 3 words. Su, which stands for good, perfect, fair, Swa, self, and Bhava, meaning being or state of being according to the Theosophical glossary. Although she repeats that Svabhava is the highest aspect, in the highest aspect is the universal spirit, Swayambhu, more frequently she defines it as the concrete aspect of Mula Prakriti. Svabhâvat, the plastic essence that fills the universe, is the root of all things. Svabhâvat is, so to say, the Buddhistic concrete aspect of abstraction called in Hindu philosophy Mula Prakriti. It is the body of the soul and that which ether would be to Akasha, the latter being the informing principle of the former. Svabhâvat is the world substance and stuff, or rather, that which is behind it, the spirit and the essence of substance. In Mahatma letter number 65, which you have already seen during the first presentation, Mahatma Kothari explains that this principle can exist in both a passive and an active condition. You will have, first of all, to view the eternal essence, the Svabhâvat, not as a compound element you call spirit matter, but as the one element for which the English has no name. It is both passive and active, pure spirit essence in its absoluteness, and repose, pure matter in its finite and conditioned state. The concept and term Svabhava are frequently encountered in Hindu and Buddhist traditions, such as Advaita Vedanta, Mahayana Buddhism, Vaishnavism, which are dealings with the writings of Ramanuja, and in 17 Tantras. In the non-dual Advaita Vedanta Yoga text, Avaduta Gita, Brahman, in the Upanishadic denotation, is the Svabhava. In the Mahayana Buddha Dharma tradition, or traditions as you would like to call them, it is one of the suite of terms employed to denote the Buddha nature. In early Samkhya philosophy that we were just listening to before I was asked to speak, Svabhava was a term which was associated with Prakriti. It is the inherent capacity of Prakriti, which is independent and self-caused. Samkhya is a dualistic Astika school of Indian philosophy regarding reality and human experience as being constituted by two independent ultimate principles, Purusha, or the conscious or the spirit, and Prakriti, which is cognition, mind, and emotions, and the nature of matter. Samkhya is strongly related to the yoga school of Hinduism, for which it forms the theoretical foundation, and it was influential on the other schools of Indian philosophy. The figure on this slide pretty much explains the epistemology that Samkhya considered perception or anumana or the inference, Shabda, the verbal testimony of the sages or Shastras, to be the only valid means of knowledge or pramana. Unlike some other schools, Samkhya did not consider the following three pramanas to be epistemically proper. Upamana, like a comparison or an analogy, Arthapati, postulation deriving from circumstances, or Anupalabadi, or non-perception, negative or cognitive proof. The Samkhya system is based on Sat Karyavada, or the theory of causation. According to Satkaryavada, the effect is pre-existent in the cause. There is only an apparent or illusory change in the makeup of the cause and not a material one when it becomes effect. Since effects cannot come from nothing, the original cause or ground of everything is seen as Prakriti. Samkhya theorizes that Prakriti is the source of the perceived world of becoming. It is pure potentially that evolves itself successively into 24 tattvas or principles. The evolution itself is possible because Prakriti is always in a state of tension among its constituent strands or gunas, which are sattva, rajas, and tamas. In a state of equilibrium of the three gunas, when the three together are one, unmanifested Prakriti, which is unknowable. Coming to the metaphysics of yoga, which sits at the Samkhya's dualism, in which the universe is conceptualized as composed of two realities, Purusha, or the witness consciousness, and Prakriti, which is the nature. Jiva, or a living being, is considered as a state in which Purusha is bonded to Prakriti in some form, in various permutations and combinations of various elements, senses, feelings, activity, and the mind. During the state of imbalance or ignorance, one or more constituents overwhelm the others, creating a form of bondage. The end of this bondage, which is, I think, very important and very fascinating, is called liberation or moksha by both the yoga and the Samkhya school of Hinduism, and can be attained by insight and self-restraint. According to Edwin Bryant, Samkhya and yoga should not be considered different schools. The first reference to yoga itself as a distinct school seems to be in the writings of Sankara in the 9th century. In Samkhya, Purusha signifies the observer, the witness. Prakriti includes all the cognitive, moral, psychological, emotional, sensorial, and physical aspects of reality. It is often mistranslated as matter or nature in non-Samkhyan usage. It does mean essential nature, but that distracts from the heavy Samkhyan stress on Prakriti's cognitive, mental, psychological, and sensorial activities. Moreover, subtle and gross matter are its most derivative byproducts, not its core. Only Prakriti acts. Yoga philosophy adopts the theory of guna from Samkhya. Guna's theory states that three gunas, innate tendency or attributes as they can be referred to, are present in different proportions in all beings. And these three gunas are sattva, which is the goodness, constructive and harmonious guna, rajas guna, which translates into passion, active and confused, and tamas, which is related to darkness, destructive and chaotic. These three are present in every being, but in different proportions. And the fundamental nature and psychological dispositions of beings is a consequence of the relative proportion of these three gunas. When sattva guna predominates, an individual, the qualities of lucidity, wisdom, constructiveness, harmonious, and peacefulness manifest themselves. When rajas is predominant, attachment, craving, passion-driven activities, restlessness manifest. And when tamas predominates in an individual, ignorance, delusion, destructive behavior, lethargy, and suffering manifests. The gunas theory underpins the philosophy of mind in yoga school of Hinduism. Samkhya school considers moksha as the natural quest of every living being or jiva. The Samkhya Karika states, as the unconscious milk functions for the sake of nourishment of the calf, so the Prakriti functions for the sake of moksha of the spirit. And this is according to the Samkhya Karika verse number 5. You may wonder, like I wonder, what is the point in knowing all this? Maybe what I'll say next will probably help. I don't know, I'll try. The goal of yoga is a sustained state of pure awareness called moksha or samadhi. To help one achieve samadhi, Patanjali states that one should train the mind to control its wandering all over the place and practice one-pointedness. Yoga as union, however, is a very appropriate meaning in the context of theosophy, since the purpose of theosophical teachings is to help the aspirant to unite first the lower and the higher consciousness, and then the latter with the universal. Ultimately speaking, this union is accomplished by developing a spiritual knowledge or perception of the fundamental unity of all existence. In the work of Pablo Senda, who needs no introduction here, the yoga of theosophy can be described as a path to the unification of our individual consciousness with the universal by means of awakening the divine wisdom that is latent in every one of us. Dr. Senda further states that the yoga of Theosophy is a holistic path because human experience is a part of a complex and multi-leveled process of evolution. No tricks such as chanting a particular mantra, visualizing a particular color, tapping some part of the body, or having faith in a particular person can fulfill the human destiny. According to this yoga, the practice must involve the whole field of human endeavor. As can be read in the light on the path, seek out the way, seek it, not by any one road. To each temperament, there is one road which seems the most desirable, but the way is not found by devotion alone, by religious contemplation alone, by ardent progress, by self-sacrificing labor, by studious observation of life. None alone can take the disciple more than one step onwards. All steps are necessary to make up the ladder. I'll share Pablo's thought to conclude here because I echo his sentiments, which is, if Theosophy is to become a positive influence for the spiritual growth of humanity, it is necessary that at least the more serious members of the Theosophical Society make definitive efforts to live the Theosophical teachings to the extent that they can at any present moment. This alone produces the alchemical transmutation of knowledge into wisdom, just as Evgenia said at the very start, these readings and these communities help when we study together. Then they will have become something more powerful than words to share. Then they will become the factors of transformation. With this, I would like to conclude and thank each and every one of you for listening to me. And I would really like to thank everybody for this gorgeous opportunity. Thank you.
Дорогая Тапошри, огромное
Dear
спасибо.
Taposhri, thank you so much for your research that was presented in such a beautiful, wonderful way, presentation and research. We have a question about Sankhya philosophy. If we consider that Sankhya may be qualified as enumeration, and the aim of this philosophy is to distinguish the spirit from matter, it is known that the Sankhya philosophy is based on 25 basic principles, or we may tell about metaphysical elements of cosmos. Mentioning God is not found there. May we qualify the Sankhya philosophy as atheistic?
I would like to say that the philosophy goes through different phases, and it is like an amalgamation of even the yogic philosophy that it brings itself into. It doesn't really talk about the derivative aspect of it. That is not a part of it, but it definitely looks at certain other epistemological blocks that make that particular philosophy. So based on that, it does come under the Aztec, a sense of the classification in the text. But I think over time, when we are discussing it today in the year 2022, it has changed definition. So I would be skeptical to just take its positioning the way it is, as it was presented. I would give it a more modern interpretation and say that, yes, that is one way of looking at it, but we can definitely use it for another view and amalgamate it together with the yogic philosophy or the yogic science and the other schools of philosophy. So not particularly basing it in the Aztec school of thought as such, but it probably was when it was set out, and it was valid. But if I look at it today, I do not really agree with every aspect, because I do feel that causation also, when we look at causation in 2022, we definitely have this strong element of negation and dependency that we have tried to bring in as humanity, as a collective consciousness over time. So there are aspects of this philosophy which are beautiful, which make it into this strong school of foundation, but I think it's not rigid, in my opinion. I could be completely wrong, but that would be my answer.
Огромное спасибо. Очень
Thank you
интересно.
very much. It is very interesting. I would like to know this, to point out an aspect that in Russia, Agni Yoga is very popular, which is synthesis of all kinds of yoga. It was given as Mahatma's doctrine as a practical application of the secret doctrine of Elena Petrovna Blavatsky. And Agni Yoga consists of several volumes that are translated into English and other languages. And I know that many theosophists study yoga as a single source. And uh, such postulates as practical application of theosophical knowledge is explained and detailed in Agni Yoga for many incarnations. If we follow the master's advice on evolution, we should understand that without practical application, there is no real understanding. Thank you very much for your mentioning this aspect in your lecture, in your presentation. Dear Taposhri, Ganguly, thank you very much. Dear friends, and we prepared a presentation for you, and today we would like to share certain aspects, certain points. It's very interesting that today our presenters defined and concentrated their attention on the term of Svabhâvat. Yet in the previous sloka of the second sloka, second stanza, fourth sloka, Elena Petrovna in comments, she goes deep and develops uh, deeply and quite largely this notion of Svabhâvat. And when we study the fourth sloka of second stanza, we considered the basis of Svabhâvat. We worked on this notion. And in her comments, Elena Petrovna prepared us for the fifth sloka, and we are met by this notion. The seven sons were not yet born from the web of light. Darkness alone was Father Mother, Svabhâvat, and Svabhâvat was in darkness. This is how Elena Petrovna, in a very organized and consequent, very deep and profound way, uh, through her comments to the post sloka, prepared us for our talking about Svabhâvat today. So, the seven sons were not yet born from the web of light. Darkness alone was Father Mother. When the space changes its structure, there will be matter and light. So more dense state that will be able to uh, define, to manifest the first impulse of the first seven. It is interesting to reflect. We can think about Xian. Here we're talking about what are seven, we're talking about what is light, about Sabhavat, about the single state of, but there is a new notion point in Xian when HPB tells us about the tissue or web of light. Let us think, what is this state of space which hasn't yet become the web of light? It is the state of the darkness alone. When there was the unique state of the first two, or father or mother, or spirit and matter, when the spirit was not differentiated, it didn't start its movement. If it is at this point, the matter didn't exist. There was a period of pralaya, and the web or state of space was not yet ready to give the first impulse for the movement of light. The light was still in the darkness. There was no reflection of light, no correlation of light, no shift of light. The web was still in the process of creation. Yet when the web acquires the structural surface, then The first reflection of light will be possible, and this first reflection of light will be complete or perfect. And this idea that the web of space should acquire a perfect structural surface so that this reflection of light becomes perfect or complete. In this concept, uh, how can we see the structural fire, the primordial state of space? All existing is fire, and is filled with this fiery substance. It is the dense fiery energy, or so-called matrix matter. It is this condensed energy. A matrix matter manifests only in the higher layers and can reach our atmosphere only in energetic sparks. The spatial fire is the connecting principle between all the worlds in the entire manifested space. When the force of the impulse directs the seed to this greater fire, then the aspiration of consciousness gives life. Thus, all transformations of the cosmos train as manifestation of spatial fire. The vital impulse awakens matter to life. Its components are sensations, feelings, thinking, and reason, which together make up consciousness. The primary fiery substance, or as it is called, the fire of the mother of the world, or the fire of infinity, Aditi. Aditi is the embodiment of the light energy of the universe. Aditi can be defined as the cosmic creator because Aditi is the supreme consciousness, the divine wisdom, the absolute, which is space in the highest spiritual sense. The fire of the mother of the world, uh, the fiery substance, the atom, can be considered as a consciousness or divine wisdom which has consciousness. Special fire is the psychic life, and where there is special fire, there is also the psychic life, or where the atom starts its movement. Of course, every atom of space therefore has a psychic life. In other words, it has a soul, it has consciousness, so it thinks, so it feels. Every creative consciousness is the manifestation of spatial fire. The movement and desperation of fire lies in the principle of light, because nothing will outstrip the light, for it is supported by the jets of omnipresent fire. This is told in Agni Yoga. Only absolute darkness merges with darkness, and absolute light merges with light. The distance between them is so great that it is measured by the concepts of absolute non existence and absolute being. And somewhere between these two poles, there is a man. What is his goal between these poles? The goal is to gather the light within himself in order to enter and merge into the absolute light. All thoughts, feelings, and moods of the human being are closely connected with the light and its color scales. Because if thoughts, feelings, and moods can be gold, pink, silver, brown, gray, red, and black, there is no secret that the black thoughts or feelings, for example, the feeling of hatred, do not give light. The irresponsibility inherent in people leads to the disfigurement of space with gray, black, or blood red, brown rays of their dark consciousness. And people who are responsible for the cleanness and beauty of the space and the best purifier will be light and colors of a positive scale. They should be harmonious and luminous. In the rainbow, you can see their basic tones. The area of light and color trace is very extensive. What connects the state of a person's consciousness or this expression of thought with the radiation of light? This is the question that we asked ourselves, and we found the answer. These are the human eyes. It is known that the color of a person's eyes does not change during all his incarnations. The color of his eyes, namely, is the shade of the iris of the person, determines his character. An organ that has the ability to perceive electromagnetic radiation in the light wavelength range and provides the function of vision. Inside the eye, there is retina. It is on it that the image is projected as in the photo camera. It consists of photoreceptors and nerve cells. The data received by the retina is transmitted by the optic nerve to the brain, where the picture we see is already being formed. The key point of this Sloka is that the web of light is similar to the retina of the eye and capable of radiating and seeing at the same time, which means that when HPB describes the state of space in the fifth slope of the second stanza when there was no web of light. The web of light should acquire such faculty so that it can radiate and see at the same time. This web of light will correspond to the retina faculties. Retina is the internal part of the visual analyzer. It contains photoreceptor cells that provide perception and conversion of electromagnetic radiation from the visible part of the spectrum into nerve impulses and also provides their primary processing. Let us have a look at what is the retina structure. The retina of an adult has a diameter of 22 millimeters and covers about 72% of the area of the eyeball inner surface. According to our theosophical analysis, that let us know how the numbers are created in the systems of the planes of existence, genesis, and cosmic evolution, and the human being evolution. What can we see? What is 22? 22 makes 4, or the form of internal state when two opposites merges into one and go into center. What is 72? 7 and 2 makes 9, or spiritualization of form. What is 7 times 2? It's 14, or 2 septenaries, or a full circle connecting the inner and outer. What is 14? 14, it's 5, or pentagram, or symbol of a man. Fifth principle, the highest manas, or mind, which means the human being, Homo sapiens. The routine of the eye is the expression of the Homo sapiens radiating and having the faculty to see at the same time, which corresponds to the state of the space of web of light in the universe. The retina becomes iridescent. It is not by chance that in Agni Yoga we see the notion of the Dukar umbrella. To find yourselves on the solid rock under the Dukar umbrella, the symbol of gathering of the uh, highest virtue, the white Tara, which is which corresponds to the mother of the world. It is a circle made of a numerous number of eyes. It is very interesting. Eyes. If we make a correspondence between the web of light and retina and eye as an organ which can see, perceive, and radiate at the same time, we may say that the circle of aura, this wonderful symbol of white tara or umbrella dukkar, is consists of a numerous number of eyes. The most ancient images of the mother of the world, uh, which is many-eyed dukkar in Tibetan language, we see that every ray ends with the eye. In the center, the points are of a minimum size, and we have the six uh, facet structures in Theosophy. It is something that Helena Petrovna provides us with in this secret doctrine. Is tetragrammaton symbol, the heart. The sun is the heart of the system, and the human heart is also the sun of the body. There are many sun hearts, and the universe represents a system of hearts. Therefore, the cult of light is the cult of the heart. To understand this abstractly means to leave the heart in the cold, but as soon as the light of the sun heart becomes life, the need for the warmth of the magnet will shine like a true sun. Then we can cross Santana's heart. There is a notion in Agni Yoga. What is Santana? It is the flow that never stops, flow of life. It is a category of notions about expansions, merging, and other states or dharmas, every one of which is caused by disappearance of the previous one and the emergence of the next one. This is what it means to cross Santana through the high heart. This is how we can merge what has been and what is. We can calculate the rhythm of heart, the heart rate, the warmth of the heart rushes as fast as the sunbeam. You may say that sunbeam has a certain velocity, certain speed, just as the heartworm has certain speed. It is known that Pythagoras could look at the sun without closing his eyes. What does it mean? It means he had a great heart and his retina as the guide of the heart or was merging with the sun through the web of light. What is the sunbeam? A ray of light which forms the sevenfold light. All these sun rays may be qualified as the sevenfold light. So the key point of the sloka, when the fifth sloka of the second stanza and 5 and 2 make 7, Elena Petrovna gives us the stanzas. 7 have not yet been born from the web of sun. They are 7 or creators of the planetary chain of the universe. And Svabhâvat is the plastic essence which fills all the universe. We can qualify it as a number, and this is the universe in its totality of all souls in its composition. Also, Svabhâvat may be seen as 1 and 9. Let us see through the planes of Vavi. The 1 is the one spirit, 9 is 3 and 6 sum. What is 3? 3 is 3 main colors, plane of spirit beyond forms. 6 is all the nature of mind or Demiurgus, the creator of the human mind. 3 and 6 makes 9. The ray is the ray of light or the spirit that passes through souls, hearts, and animates them. This is the function of the ray of light. It animates the souls, and the web of light is the spirit which fills the space. 7 are 7 rays. What happens here in this period, in this time of the fifth sloka? Uh, it's sevenfold nature begins. 7 is the seventh ray. Then Logos manifests. And it's not by chance that Yelena Petrovna, in the comments to the sloka, defines the Logos state. If Logos is manifested as potentiality or unmanifested cause, the plane of prototype, the first Logos, person, and in philosophy, it is the unmanifested logos, the forerunner of the manifested one. This is the root cause, the unconscious of the European ancestors. The second logos, manifested, is still a latent thought, the plane of reason and creativity. The second logos, or spirit matter, life, universal spirit, Purusha and Prakriti. And the third logos, or demiurgus, the creative logos. The third logos, the material and the educational plane. The third logos, cosmic thought basis, Mahat or mind, cosmic universal soul, cosmic numen of matter, the basis of intelligent manifestations of nature and nature, also called Mahabodhi. Demiurgus, that Elena Petrovna writes about in comments, is the builder or creator, the divine force that creates the universe. There is a notion of demiurgic mind, and these are different planes of being or genesis. It is the same as universal mind. It is the first state of Brahma himself. Under the influence of Mahat or manifested wisdom represented by these innumerable centers, the spiritual energy of the cosmos, the reflection of the universal mind, which is a cosmic representation through basis, and the intelligent force accompanying such a representation becomes objectively a Fohat. This is how it happens. Fohat, passing through all the seven principles of Akasha, acts on the manifested substance or a single element and differentiated it into various centers of energy, sets it in motion of law of cosmic evolution, which, in obedience to the representation of the universal mind law, brings to life all the various states of being in the manifested solar system. It is not by chance that the ancients had their own set of gods, the seven main secret gods, as it was told about, exoterically the head of which was the visible sun, or the eighth, esoterically is the second logos, the demiurge. This is how we can define the state of demiurgus and why sometimes the planes of mind and creativity and plane of matter change. This is these are the basis of this concept. There is demiurgus and demiurgus mind. And I would like to attract your attention that there is a difference between logos and demiurgus because one is spirit and the other is soul. And only thanks to sevenfold nature of light ray we can perceive, understand this logos. We can consider Demiurgus as the creator of our planet and everything related to it. Yet the first logos that we are talking about, we can consider it as a force leading the creation. The spirit of the creator leading him to this process of creation because there is nothing good and bad at the same time. There is the beginning of all good and all bad or evil. This is the function of the creator. And this creator, as Elena Petrovna writes, is neither good nor bad per se, but his differentiated aspects in nature force him to assume one or another character. This is the secret. His aspects, which get differentiated in nature, makes him assume uh, one or another character. This is how the willpower manifests. The willpower we've talked about today. What is willpower? In this case, Atma is concentrated in buddhi, but embodied only in manas. This is where it can be manifested, embodied. The spirit, soul, and body of the universe. Spirit is Atma, Buddhi is soul, and the body is Manas, the body of the universe. Let's have a look at how Elena Petrovna tells us about this great differentiation or the preparation for differentiation. She tells us about the circle. The, the surface is black, the dot inside is white. By piercing the germ, the ray gets absorbed in this point, and the germ develops into the second logos. What are the second logos? It's the triangle inside of the mundane egg. The triangle, which consists of three parts. The first part is the potential point, second and third stage is the third logos, unmanifested, or first manifested, which is out of seven rays. So when the first three have their reflection in this consequence of transformation of space, we have seven. The point, the line, or two, the line passes to the surface, creating three tetractys or four. If we put a point under the triangle, thus how the square becomes the cube. And the surface of the cube consists of six squares. The unfolded cube forms a cross, where the vertical line includes four and horizontal three squares. Consequently, six parts gives us seven principles or seven Pythagorean qualities of man, or logos becomes tetragrammaton, triangle or trinity becomes four, vertical four, and horizontal three. This is how we see six created, and it creates seven unfolded. Seven is the cube unfolded. Now we can see it, how six turns into seven. These are seven principles when three falls into four. And let's have a look at three fallen into four in the concept of the second stanza of Sloka. What are these? These are spirit, will, and power. Here you see three falling into four, and the wheel can start to move. The circle is closed. The next three fallen into four.
То
That
3
is a triangle.
упадает в
A triangle, and if we put a dot there, then three fall into four. And in the square, we divide first, second, third, and fourth parts, and therefore we have the full square that will become the foundation for unrevealed cube that will become six, and unrevealed cube that will become seven. Here is a triangle. 1, 2, and 3 fall into 4, the central component. Those three, spirit, will, and mind, revitalizing the four lower principles. The square becomes the triangle when each point is divided into female and male aspects. And the Pythagoreans said once a unit, then twice two, and hence a tetrad with the same highest unit at the top, and turns out a pyramid with a base having a tetrad in the plane. The divine light descending on it creates an abstract cube. We have the six-pointed star or tetragrammaton, and the seven suns who are the creators of the universe. In different systems, in several systems, a human being was considered as the third logos. And here, the third logos as the demiurge, the creator of the logos, is the Mahat or mind, the builder, constructor, the divine force that builds the universe. Person who possesses intelligence or creative power that builds his consciousness or brings awareness of the light closer becomes a true creation of Brahma. Seven have not yet been born from the fabric of light. The one darkness was the father-mother Svabhâvat, and Svabhâvat was in darkness. There was no third logos, sevenfold in its essence, the prototype of manas of a human being. Thank you so much. That is the way we define several key points that probably were not being that detailed in previous presentations of our dear speakers, and probably the 4 participants will have an impetus to reflect. We think that it's not only interesting, but it's actually practical application when we can take any principle and equalize it to the human consciousness and physical organ. Therefore, we try to understand our own nature. And I'd like to give the floor to dear members of Scientific and Research Group. As Mr. Huang is connecting, we'll give the floor to Mr. Kishore Ganguly, the Theosophical Society of India. And your comments, please.
Namaste to all the Theosophists of the world and the organizers, Adamant Lodge, and all the technical team. Svabhâvat is the Mula Prakriti, as we have heard from all the speakers. They have explained it in a very well and nicely presented today. And Ms. Ganguly has also clearly said that the Svabhâvat is the Mula Prakriti. It is the karma that keeps the Svabhâvat active at the starting of the every Manvantara. The Svabhâvat is the reason which sends the energy to the forehead to move to start the creation. And Svabhâvat is active or inactive. It can be understood like Mula Prakriti, Para Prakriti, Apara Prakriti. It is fully active, and at the same time, it is the reason for the creation. And we have to understand the Svabhâvat in a very deep way. It can be clearly understood and interpreted in words only when we can attain the state of Samadhi. So in Samadhi state, we can clearly understood it. And in that way, Svabhâvat can be clearly interpreted. And it is the essence of the creation. It is the essence of the creation. In that way, we have to very clearly study a lot to understand Svabhâvat in a practical way. Thank you so much for giving this opportunity, and greetings to all the Theosophists. Namaste.
Господин Кишори Анголи.
Mr. Kishore Ganguly, thank you so much for having expressed. And today, Helsinki, Finland, Blavatsky Lodge, Madam Ritvalapi, we are happy to greet you. Thank you so much for having joined to this final seminar, and we are ready to listen to your commentaries regarding what's touched upon your heart. Would be happy to listen. Welcome.
Thank you, and good afternoon, everybody. It's very beautiful time in Finland and springtime, and Russian it's same. And I think so. This Svabhâvat, there is can say also su means beautiful. It's a mean also good and beautiful. Taposhri told it's good. There is beautiful also mean. It is. I have only detail because this there is so lot meaning. And I think Buddhist philosophy said Svabhâvat is eternal cause and effect. It's essence all and root of all things and ultimate reality. I think so. If we look at the first word, seven, what's the mean seven here? It's a one refers first. It's a mean sun, seven suns. And if you look at how much seven in so many things, energy, power, seven. If you can look at beginning, and there is seven chakras in human. We have 7 planets and sense of balls in Manavantara 7. And I think so. It's very important to remember how 7 is every level. And then I like it very much when somebody said that Svabhâvat means maybe also emptiness in Buddhist philosophy, because emptiness and space to correlate, I think so there is just deep meaning there, because there is all, but there is clean also. That's it, me very much. But I haven't any more because I listen. Oh, there is a lot of knowledge. Thank you very much. I hope you very good summer, and thank you very much your hard work. And HPP said, when you read Secret Doctrine, it have to be continue and regular, and you have done such way. Thank you very much all, and very good summer to all.
Дорогая Ритва, огромное спасибо, что были с нами и весь сезон.
Dear Ritva, thank you so much for being with us for the whole season this year devoted to the second stanza of Zian. You've been with us and you've been following the speakers and presenting your own research. Thank you so much for your work, for having shared with us. Thank you. I would
Thank
also
you.
like to listen to the Russian theosophists Tatyana Kadachkina, Belokuriha, Altai region, the Theosophical Lodge in Altai region. When I was listening to Mr. Kolganov, he was trying to connect the Eastern and Western paradigm, and I had a question regarding the place of will that is inside us. Where is the will of person that has a problem of choice? And that is why I started to reflect of importance to combine the two paradigms to find the answer to this question. And thank you all speakers for getting back to these topics that are eternal and that are getting us closer to the truth. Thank you so much for the seminar, and thank you to organizers. Thank you so much, dear Tatiana, for having posed attention to these speakers' reports and every thought of Brigitte, Taquin, Mr. Kolganov, Taposhri, Ganguly. It's all so valuable, and we can reflect on it infinitely because our consciousness is enlarging according to conditions of the evolution without any end. Mr. Yari, the floor is yours. Till we were having this seminar, I tried to write here what Svabhâvat is. The face was always ready for him, and father and mother and son in space. The absolute mind is darkness, and the son is the shadow of the God. There is all illusion inside him, and is there with the rays. And these shadows and light are veils, and that is the way they gathered in one point in the middle and were collected in the ray, enhanced, and were hurrying to the emptiness between the worlds. Actually, blindness is can be felt by those who are close by their hearts, and the chaos is trying to call us. And so it is what maintains the eternity. So this was actually the lyrics and improvisation by Mr. Yari, and the way he tried to draw the conclusion of what our dear speakers were telling us today. That is the way to express all our creative powers. professor from the South Korean Hong Hwang is greeting us and congratulates us on the seminar. Michelina Foster from the United States of America is also greeting us with the final seminar with the presentations. She was watching us and she admires the way we're working today. Dear friends, so we've come to the end. That is the final seminar, and next time we'll meet on the 24th of September. We're getting to summer holidays and we'll have the time to understand the whole second stanza of Zian in order to gather on the 24th of September, and that is the way to understand the sixth sloka in synthesis and to get into the most beautiful stanza of the Secret Doctrine, the third stanza of the first volume, that is the K1. Actually, that will be the great research with revelations, with opportunities to contemplate, to reflect, and of course, we'll wait for feedback. Dear friends, we're starting to get ready to the 6th International Theosophical Congress that will take place in Nizhny Novgorod, following the competition between cities of Russia. The 6th International Theosophical Congress will be devoted to the great Russian theosophist, Mr. Bakhanov. And today, at the final seminar, we are giving the start to getting ready to this Congress. We'll wait for new research, we'll wait for speakers, new speakers at the great event we'll hold at the global event. The Congress is presented at the Global International Theosophical stage. So thank you so much for all work, for all your efforts, for your attitude to this great notion, the secret doctrine, Theosophy, and the name of Madame Blavatsky. I thank all technical support. It's made it possible to hold this seminar. Alexander Kuleshov, Alexander Brezhnev, Yuri Butin, Maxim Yodgorov, everybody who's been with us today. Of course, we also thank interpreters Alexandra Bobko and Olga Tomchuk for this linguistic support, and thanks for efforts and responsibility for passing words of every speaker of the scientific and research group so that everybody understands. Dear friends, thank you for the work that everybody conducts for Theosophy in the whole world. Despite all difficulties and despite sanctions, we have this brilliant opportunity to make research of the sacred doctrine, to be in these energies of knowledge forever, because the path of knowledge is open for every aspiring soul, and this aspiration to knowledge is endless. Dear friends, please write your feedback, your proposals. Wish you good weekend, good summer holidays, good summer, and of course, revelation, scientific research, and our theosophical topic that we'll be waiting for in the next season. See you on the 24th of September. Wish you light and love.
The Secret Doctrine by Blavatsky. Dedicated to all true Theosophists. Book of the Third Millennium.
Blavatsky only new.